Hi everyone, it's Gina K, and today on Stamp TV I'm going to show you different fun ways to use the dies that are available in the Foil Mates collection. There are so many little dies inside the shape dies, and I'm going to show you some fun things that you can do with them. In the first card, I'm going to show you how to cut shapes out to reveal foil patterns underneath. In the second card, I'm going to show you how to cut shapes to create a birthday cake and to use those little candle dies. And then in the final card, I'm going to show you how to use regular cardstock to cut stars to black out parts of that beautiful gold sequin foil. The first project that I'm going to show you uses some different Foil Mates patterns. I'm going to use one of the greetings from the wedding and anniversary pack. I'm going to use the Swirls and Flourishes background, and I'm going to use some of this beautiful red velvet foil. And the red velvet coordinates with the Gina K red velvet products. Then I'm going to use both sets of these dies, both ovals, the double stitched and the single stitched, and I'm going to use some of those cute little hearts that you see in the double stitched die collection. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a piece that's going to go on top of our foiled piece by cutting hearts out of this red strip. So I'm going to use my Cuttlebug. Now with the Foil Mates dies, you can use any die cutting machine you want. They work with the Big Shot, they work with the Little Sister, they work with the Gemini. But today I'm going to be using my Cuttlebug. And what you're going to do is you're going to position these two little hearts going in different directions right up at the top of this strip of red velvet cardstock. Once you've cut that out, you're going to find that there are these little holes inside right near the bottom of the hearts. And I use the Tim Holtz craft pick, and I just poke that little hole, and that helps release the little piece of cardstock that's stuck in there. And then I'm going to put the cardstock aside. I'm going to keep those hearts for another project later, because my goal here is not to use the hearts, but to just reveal the empty hearts inside this little strip of red cardstock. And I'm going to continue to do this till I get to the bottom of this piece of red cardstock. And you'll notice that each time I cut the dies, I'm going to change the position of them so that they're not really too much in any particular pattern. Now once I've got all of these hearts cut out, now it's going to be time to foil this piece of swirly paper. So I have a piece of parchment paper, and I'm going to fold that in half. And then once I get that folded in half, I'm going to slip in a piece of the Gina K Designs 80-pound layering weight white cardstock. This is a really good thing to do, especially when you're using smaller pieces. It helps everything stay sturdy, and it also increases the pressure and pushes the whole piece up closer to the heating element. So now, once I have that tucked away in my parchment sandwich, I'm going to go ahead and feed that through the laminator. And I always like to feed it through with the fold side going in first. Now once that comes out, you don't have to wait for it to cool. You can just go ahead and peel that foil right off and reveal the beautiful design underneath. And I always keep that extra piece for projects later. But look at how pretty that shine is. You get nice good coverage with it too. Now I want to do a tone-on-tone look, so I'm using one of the ink cubes that comes with the ThemOWeb Gina K Designs collection. This one is from the Primetime set, and the color is called Red Velvet. It's an exact match to our red velvet cardstock, our envelopes, our re-inkers, all of the red velvet products. And you can see I'm just using a slight swirling motion and just coating this whole thing using a little bit of that ink. And I kind of like that some areas are a little lighter than others. That gives it some character, but you get a really neat tone-on-tone look, and you don't lose any of that shine. Now my next step is to make sure that my piece that's going to go on top with the hearts is the same size as that swirly piece. So I want to bring this piece down to 5 inches. So I'm going to cut about 1/4 of an inch off of each end. This way both ends will have some open hearts. And now I've taken that down to 5 inches, and that's going to fit perfectly on top of that piece of foiled paper. And look how cool that looks with all those shiny hearts that are all tone on tone red velvet. You can add a little bit of adhesive to the back, just in the areas, kind of all around. Just put a little tape, and then you kind of want to focus right on the edges at the top and at the bottom. You want to make sure you have a little bit of extra tape there just to make sure it doesn't peel away. And then once you've got the tape on there, you can layer those two pieces together, and you've got a beautiful panel to go onto your card project. Now I'm going to put this panel onto a piece of white cardstock, and I have embossed this cardstock using an old Cuttlebug folder. This is a swirl folder. I'm not sure if it's still available, but if I can find it, I will link it underneath the screen here at YouTube and at Stamp TV. I'm going to adhere this piece onto a piece of our black Onyx cardstock, and then I'm going to add this strip going down the one side. I think the kind of a swirly embossing folder really kind of sets off the swirls in the foil. So if you have one or something close, give it a try. Now I'm going to tape this on, give it a little bit of pressure, and then that's going to be the layout basis for my card. Now I'm going to grab a little bit of the Gina K Designs fancy ribbon, and this is the white ribbon. One thing you may not know about our ribbon is the white ribbon can be dyed to match any color cardstock. So if you have re-inkers, or you have ink pads, or you have Copic markers, or any alcohol marker, Spectrum Noir, you can color this ribbon, let it dry, and then it can match your cardstock. So there's the panel that's going to be the backdrop for my card, and here is my finished card. And what I did here was cut out one of those wedding and anniversary greetings, and I foiled that in red velvet, and then I matted that oval onto one of the single-stitched ovals in black and added a little bit of that fancy ribbon with a bow. And there's the finished card. Now for my next project, I'm going to make a fun wonky cake. So the foil mates that I'm going to use are the Birthday Essentials set. I'm also going to use something from the Stars and Stripes. I'm going to use that star pattern, and I'm going to use the bigger polka dots from Polka Party. Then for foils, I'm using some Turquoise Sea. I'm also going to use a little bit of grass green, and I'm going to use some red velvet. I do have one little piece of gold sequin as well. And then for dies, I'm going to use pretty much all the dies that you see here except for the stars. I'm saving those for the next project. But these are going to create my cake pieces, my layers, and my candles. So the first thing that I'm going to do is take a piece of this polka dot cardstock. This is from Polka Party. And I am going to cut this out with the smallest double-stitched rectangle die. I kind of lined that up a little bit, and then I'm going to put my B-plate on top, and I'm going to run this through the Cuttlebug. And you can see I'm not using very much of this piece of cardstock because I really only need a little bit. This is going to be my cake topper. So now that that's done, I want to show you that I've also cut out the smallest single rectangle die in black onyx, and that is going to create my little layer piece for that polka dot piece. The next cardstock that I'm going to use, it's the Stars Foil Mates piece from the Stars and Stripes, and I'm going to use the middle double stitch rectangle die, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to cut a portion of it out using that double stitched rectangle. So each of my little layers of my cake are going to be a different fun shiny pattern, and this is going to be the middle layer. I've also done the same thing with this one. I've taken the single-stitched version of this die and I've cut out a piece of it in black onyx. And again, that's going to be my layer piece. Let me show you what I mean. This is going to layer just like that, so you have that little shadow border around the edge. Now my final one I already pre-cut. This is the largest double-stitched rectangle, and I've cut the Happy Birthday to You greeting out of the Birthday Essentials Foil Mates pack. And then I've also cut a single-stitched rectangle to do a shadow layer underneath that one as well. So all 6 rectangle dies were used. Now it's time to add a little foil. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do 3 different pieces all at once here. I'm going to start with the Happy Birthday to You greeting, and I'm going to lay a piece of turquoise sea foil on top of that. Then for my little polka dot piece from the polka party, I'm going to grab a piece of red velvet and put that on top. I want to make sure there's no dust on that. And then my final piece is going to be the stars from Stars and Stripes, and that is going to be foiled in grass green. Once I have those all laid out inside that little parchment sandwich, I'm going to flip the parchment lid, and then I'm going to send it through the laminator. And you can see why that cardstock underneath is helpful when you have all those different pieces going in at once. Once they come out, you can go ahead and peel them right away and reveal all of that shine. So here is the Happy Birthday to You in turquoise sea. That looks so pretty. And then I have the top of my cake, which is going to be these red velvet polka dots from Polka Party. And then the final one is my grass green stars from the Stars and Stripes Foil Mates collection. So now that I have those pieces, here I have a piece of peel and stick toner paper. I'm going to make a 2-tone piece of toner paper using some turquoise sea foil, and then at the top I'm going to put some of the gold sequin. And then I'm going to run both of those pieces of foil on top of that toner paper through the laminator at one time. Now this is the peel and stick toner. This is great for when you want to cut small die shapes out. They'll already have the adhesive on them. You just have to peel them and stick them on. Once that comes out, it's ready to be peeled. And then I've got this piece that I can use for lots of candles and lots of flames. And you can see how pretty that looks. So my next step is going to be to begin to cut these candles out. I'm going to put the candle stick part, the wax part, down onto the turquoise sea, and then the flame up on the gold sequin foil. And I'm going to cut those out. And again, with these little tiny dies, there are these little holes in them that will help you remove the pieces. So I'm using the Tim Holtz craft pick again, and I'm going to poke that out and just pull out that little piece of candle, and you can see how pretty that is, all shiny in the turquoise sea. And then I'm going to punch out this little flame. And look how pretty these are. They just sparkle and shine so much, and they're so much fun and ready to just peel and stick right onto my project. So now that I've cut 3 of each, I'm going to start to assemble the card. And I did the same thing here with this white piece. I used that Swirl Cuttlebug folder just to give the background some interest, but you can use any embossing folder you want. Now I'm going to start layering my pieces together. I'm going to start with this Happy Birthday to You piece, and I'm going to lay it onto the piece that I cut out with the single stitched rectangle. And that is going to be the base of my cake. And I'm going to pop this on as well. Get this piece of swirl paper down onto the black onyx layer. And then the cake bottom is going to go there. And then my next piece I'm going to do is the grass green stars. So I'm going to just make sure that the 3 borders on the sides and the top are all even. I'm not going to worry much about the bottom because I'm going to trim that off. And I'm going to do the same thing here with the red velvet polka dots. So checking to make sure that I have even sides, and that looks pretty good, and stick. Now I'm going to trim off the excess of those black pieces that I don't need. And you can save those pieces because you can make more cake cards like this, or you can use those little pieces for other projects. So I'm going to put those away, and I'm just trimming off the excess right along the line where the foil ends. Now my next step is going to be to assemble this cute little wonky cake. So I'm going to start with the happy birthday to you and add a strip or two of tape. And then I'm going to place this green panel kind of wonky on there, kind of tilted over toward the left-hand side. Then I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to put a strip of adhesive on that layer of the cake, and then I'm going to make this one wonky too. And this just creates kind of a fun, whimsical, graphic look. And now it's time to add some of the candles. So I added another strip of glue, and as I'm applying these candles to the back, I want to make sure that I still have enough room left on my card for the flame. If not, just want to move that down a little bit because you want to be able to get your flames on the top. And once you kind of know where those candles can go, you can stick all three of them on there. And then the whole piece is going to be ready to attach to your card. And just give it one last look. Add that adhesive on the back. And then you can see the candles, these are the peel and stick, so I'm just going to peel those right off, and then those candles are going to stick right to the cardstock, and that makes it so convenient. So I'm going to kind of center that toward the bottom, and then just press everything into place. So there's my fun wonky birthday cake, and now it's time to add the flames. So I'm going to just peel the little backs off and then place those flames right above each one of those fun little turquoise sea candlesticks. And you can try doing your flames in multicolors, in rainbow foil. You can try some of the watercolor foil that ThemOWeb makes in their Deco-Foil line, or you can stick to the Gina K colors and try the sequins, the silver sequins and gold sequins. There's just endless possibilities when it comes to these beautiful foil products. And now this whole panel, look how shiny that is going to go onto a Turquoise Sea Card Base, and there is my finished card. That's a fun birthday card. My final project is going to use the Friendship, the True Friend pack. I love this pack because I really like to make cards for my friends. And then I'm also going to use the Stars and Stripes background pack. For foil, I'm going to use the gold sequins, and then for dies, I'm going to use both sets of squares, the double stitch squares and the single stitch squares, along with those stars from the rectangles that I was telling you in the last project. Now you can see I've actually layered two pieces of black cardstock on top of each other to cut these stars out, because I need to cut lots of stars, and so if I can do 2 sheets at a time, it's going to save me a lot of time. So I'm going to cut all of these out. Now, once you pop these stars out, you'll see the top ones pop out really easily, and then these you're going to have to just press them out. They're not going to fall out like the dies on the top will. And again, the stars have a little hole right in the center that you can just pop the craft pick into, and the stars will just fall right out. So I'm going to finish cutting all these stars, and then we'll get ready to assemble this project. You can get a lot of stars out of a small piece of cardstock like this, especially if you double it up. Now here are the pieces that I'm going to use for my card. So the first thing I want to do is I want to foil this little strip of black toner paper. So I have that here, and I'm going to put that into my parchment sandwich on top of that extra piece of cardstock, and then the foil on top. And that's going to go through my laminator, again with the folded side of that parchment sandwich going in first. That will prevent you from getting it caught up in the rollers too. Now it's ready to peel. You don't have to wait for it to cool. And look at all of that beautiful shine. Isn't that gorgeous? I think the sequins are some of my favorite foils that I've ever seen. Now my next step is going to be to add a little color to this piece of Stars and Stripes paper. I'm going to grab a sponge dauber, and this is also from the Primetime collection. This is the Wild Dandelion ink cube. If you already have our ink pads, these colors match perfectly to the Wild Dandelion in the Gina K Designs boutique collection. And I'm just going to do the same thing that I did in that very first card, just swirl that wild dandelion ink onto my piece of cardstock. Now, you don't always have to foil the foil mates. Sometimes you might just want a real cool graphic look that keeps the print black, like I'm going to do with this one. I'm going to leave that black. I'm not going to add any foil to that. And I'm going to tape that right down onto a matte layer that I cut out a little bit earlier out of the black Onyx cardstock. Then I'm also going to adhere together this piece of wild dandelion cardstock along with this black Onyx matte that I cut out for it. And again, all of the measurements are going to be underneath the screen, both at YouTube and on Stamp TV. So this is going to be the focal panel for my card. And there I have one of the pieces ready to go. Now I'm going to add some stars to this gold sequin foil piece. And if you want to, you can first adhere some adhesive sheets to your black cardstock before you cut out the stars, and that will allow you to make the stars similar to the peel and stick toner paper where you just have to peel the backing off and stick them right down. But there weren't too many stars here, and I had some black scraps of cardstock, so I just figured I would cut them out, and I would just put a little adhesive on each star and just pop them down separately without worrying too much. Now, once you've got the whole thing coated with stars, you're going to trim off the excess points of the stars just by pressing your finger up against the edge of the gold foiled piece of cardstock and just trimming off the little excess black points from the stars. And now you have a piece of patterned star and gold sequin paper ready to use for your project. I'm going to mount that onto a piece of black Onyx cardstock that I pre-cut a little bit earlier. And then that panel is also going to be ready to be put onto my focal image panel. So the first piece I'm going to put down is the gold sequin piece. And then I'm going to put that up in the top left-hand corner like this, and then I'm going to put this other panel down at the bottom right-hand corner. And that's kind of a fun layout. And that's a great backdrop for the greeting that I chose to use. I used the Good Friends Are Like Stars greeting from the True Friend Foil Mates pack, and it's just a perfect background for that greeting. And I just popped it all onto a piece of white cardstock, and that card is ready to go. I hope you've enjoyed today's Stamp TV video, and I hope you'll give some of these techniques a try. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned to Stamp TV for more project videos. Thanks so much for watching.